Aloha and welcome. Jan Wakefield here. Today we're going to talk about energy hygiene. So for those of you who know about dental hygiene and just personal hygiene in general, it's the same idea. However, we're going to take a little bit of a step further from brushing teeth, which I definitely recommend, and showering, where you wash your hair and clean all the important parts. And yeah, so, for the sake of energy hygiene and talking about energy in general and how we clear ourselves, also how energy hygiene relates to um, protecting ourselves from energies out there that maybe we don't want to play with, or dance with, or even visit with, or even see or hear about. So, energy hygiene today, I'm going to talk about the body in terms of its three parts that we will clean as we do, the hygiene process. And that is the physical body, all the parts that you can touch and feel, the psychological, everything that has to do with the mind, and then the biofield. So in research, it's called the biofield. Anytime you see any peer-reviewed research to date, it's called the biofield. You might hear biohackers out there. They talk about, supplements that you can take for your energy field, etc. But the biofield is the term I'll use for that energy field that we often describe as being outside and around the body, right? It's it is within all of our cells as well. It's informing us from the outside world, and the biofield is also sending our energy out and sending information out into the world. So it's a form of communication. So the physical body is what we'll talk about first. So y'all know how to shower or take a bath or brush your teeth, all super important stuff. But what I do like to recommend, and I've already mentioned in another one of my talks, is how to open the energy centers. So the energy centers are the communication back and forth between the outside world and the body. There are many, many in the body. However, the ones we'll talk about just for today, would be the basic 7 energy centers. They're sometimes called chakras. That's probably the more commonly used term. You'll hear it in yoga classes and all kinds of other situations. So the first is at the base of the spine, at the perineum. The second energy center is a couple of fingers below the navel, the belly button. The third energy center is right where the ribs come together. It's called the solar plexus. The fourth is at the heart. The fifth is at the suprasternal notch, right here at the neck. The sixth is the third eye. And the seventh is at the top of the head. So when you're clearing them, let me describe what they look like. If you didn't hear the other talk, I'll just go over it quickly. They're shaped like ice cream cones. No ice cream. Too bad, the best part, right? It's like the ice cream cone that is pointy at the bottom and round and open at the top where you put the ice cream on top. So that cone shape goes into the nervous system, and the round side of it is out to the front. You can check in with your energy centers. They are often changing based on your environment and what's going on in the world. So they may be receded back in a little further. They may be sticking way, way out. So you can check in with your energy centers when you're taking a shower. Just want to open them, take 2 fingers, stick them in the energy center, and turn it counterclockwise. So the clock is the 12 is at the top, the 6 is at the bottom, counterclockwise. To open, you might want to tease the energy out with your fingers. Whatever works for you, feel into it and see what works best for you. And then when you're finished, you close them, turning them clockwise. If you forget to close them, it's okay, it happens. They will automatically close up themselves. So don't worry about it. I do like to manually close them just as a practice. So every day in the shower, I do this practice. I learned this practice in my shamanic healing from Dr. Alberto Villoldos. Let's give him credit for that. And if you want more information about the energy centers, as he calls them, chakras, or how to clear them based on his technique, which is one that I like, Shaman Healer Sage is the name of the book. Dr. Alberto Villoldo is his name. And you can also, I believe, get this on Audible. Easy, easy read. He does a comprehensive overview of the energy centers and how to clear them. It's really a great book. Super easy to read, just not like heady and technical. It's like talking to a friend, kind of. Great book. So as you're clearing the energy centers, you want to just start becoming aware. You're all very sensitive. You're all very aware of your bodies and of yourselves. What is that energy center doing? Are you getting any images in your mind as you're clearing them? Are you getting any sensations? Are you getting any flavors in your mouth? All of these details are just bits of information that help you to understand what is associated with that energy center. So as you're clearing, maybe you'll get a little more information. So pay attention to that. All right. So how we care for our body is how we do everything in our world. So a lot of people say that our space, and I'll talk a little bit more about home clearing because it is related to the energy body, or our biofield. Our space represents our inner world. So how we take care of our physical body often is a representation of how we do everything in the world. So just throw that out there. If it resonates with you, great. If not, you know, just as with everything, I'm offering information, it's educational purposes, and if it resonates with you, great. Hope it's helpful. All right, so interior is exterior. All right, so in this with the physical body as well and doing physical hygiene, there's also boundaries. So sometimes we need to be very aware of what's happening when we get our physical body into a space, right? And we'll talk more about boundaries a little bit later on in this talk when we discuss the energy body. So boundaries has to do with several things. Boundaries could be physically moving your body in from one space to another so that you are preventing maybe an energy interaction that is not the best for you at the time. So I have explained and shared with you in another talk that there are some times where I just don't do well in really busy, crazy places like malls or Walmart or Costco. And so be mindful of your physical body and the messages that you're getting when you're in these spaces. What's happening? Are you starting to feel anxious, which is going to relate to the psychological body? But I'm saying it now as a part of the physical body because sometimes we need to physically move ourselves from one space to another. Does that mean that we don't do our grocery shopping? Maybe, but not necessarily. It's all about that awareness, self-awareness, and starting to understand how our body feels in a specific space or a situation, right? Like family Christmas parties or Thanksgiving with a lot of other people. Just start paying attention because it does relate to what the next step is, our psychological body. But I'm not going to go there quite yet because I want to talk to you about self-care. Okay, self-care is how we take care of our physical body. I actually spoke with someone the other day who said they had never had a massage, and I thought, how's that possible? So the physical body is going to hold information. Our muscles, our bones, every tissue and every cell, our joints is giving us information. So if we are physically hurting, our joints are hurting, our neck is hurting, our muscles are hurting, this is information. Now, maybe you just left the gym or it's the day after you've gone to the gym and you're experiencing muscle pain simply because you are working out. That's one type of physical information that you get back. The other is when you start feeling your knuckles aching every single day. And you say, oh, my grandma had that. Oh, my mom had arthritis. Okay, that's a good narrative. And you can live by that narrative if you like, or you could say, this is information, what's going on with my physical body. I find that a lot of people do not put enough emphasis on self-care. Self-care could be um, getting up out of your chair if you have a desk job, where you walk around and you get some fresh air, or even just walk around. If you can't get outside, that's okay. Moving that physical body, you got to move it to move it. Getting outside, doing some, you know, getting in the sunlight, breathing fresh air if you can get outside, and moving the blood through the body and getting the muscles going a little bit. Self-care is super important. I highly recommend massage. Again, our thoughts, our energy can get trapped in our muscles and our physical body. Get a massage and start paying attention to what it feels like and what kind of thoughts and weird things come up when the massage therapist is working out the muscles. Things will come up. It lodges in the body. Part of physical hygiene is taking care of or doing self-care like that. It's undervalued for a lot of us, particularly if we're super busy. I also recommend acupuncture. Gina's not on here right now, but I will have her come and do a talk for you guys about acupuncture and how wonderful that is with moving the energy through the meridians in the body. Acupressure is in that same vein of thought. Reiki, while it is an energy work, it's also a physical work in its own way. Bowen therapy, if you haven't checked out Bowen therapy, that one's very interesting. And sound therapy, yoga, Pilates, all of these exercises to get the body moving and to stretch the muscles so that you need that balance of that effort and surrender. So yoga is a great practice for that. You're actually stretching and strengthening at the same time. So when anytime you're moving those muscles in any type of exercise, you are saying you're contracting and releasing. That's going to shift energy around in your body, and any of those thoughts or energetic patterns or um, energy things that are trapped in your body, you're giving them an opportunity to move around as well. And that way, your chakra system or your energy center system, which is the natural cleansing for the physical body, will begin to kick that stuff out. But if you are sedentary, if you are allowing the body to lock up uh, through a narrative about arthritis, back pain, story, then what's happening is you're allowing the physical body to sort of take over and become the mind. All right, so what you eat matters. This is a big point I'd like to make. A lot of people think it's a calorie, but and I'm not telling you to go vegan. I'm not telling you to eat all organic. I'm telling you to be mindful of how your body is reacting to the foods that you put in. So I'm going to tell you a short story about myself. I had chronic migraines. It was horrific. I spent years in bed. I would go to work in pain. I would come home in pain. I would spend the night in pain. I would wake up in pain. So for those of you who don't know about chronic migraine, it's a neurological condition that is more than 14 days of pain per month. And I was in the category of 24/7, 365. So every single day, every minute of my life, I was in some form of pain. And in that, what comes with that condition, and this is a medical truth, is that 20% of chronic migraineurs are suicidal. 20% actually, or not 20%, probably 100% are suicidal. 20% actually follow through with it. So it is a massive number of people who commit suicide due to this condition. And so I was suffering from a pretty deep degree of depression. And in that, it was really a challenge for me because, as a strong person and someone who is very active, the years that I endured that, probably a good solid 4 years, I endured that level of pain. It was a big struggle for me. So my neurologist at the Mayo Clinic and I decided that I would try a ketogenic diet. I had done some research about it, asked her, and she said, "Yeah, I think this is a great idea." So for those of you who know anything about keto, it is about converting from your source of energy in the body from carbohydrates to fats. So you are using fats as your fuel source, which means that in the keto diet, pretty much about 80% of your calories come from fat, and the other 20 are pretty much from proteins and the very smallest amount imaginable of carbs. So 20 grams of carbs a day, which is like a breath mint. Not really, but one of those little discs that is red and white. That's about 15 grams of carbs right there. So to give you an idea, it's like a teaspoon of sugar. So no sugars whatsoever. And as I had been a vegetarian previously in my life, I had done veganism. Going to this type of way of eating was a real challenge for me. But when I learned that ketones um, helped with neurological conditions, I thought, I'm in, I'll do anything to get rid of migraines. The first symptom that went away actually was depression for me. When I was in ketosis, the depression was gone. And after 4 months, I had to wean off my antidepressant, per my neurologist's guidance, my psychiatrist's guidance. I did that. But it was clear that whatever I had changed in my diet had completely changed what was going on in my psychological world. So when you are paying attention to what you're eating and how it's impacting your body, change it up sometimes. Maybe intermittent fast, maybe try vegetarianism, maybe try something else and see how it maybe changes the experience in your body. I am not a nutritionist, so remember that if you're doing any nutritional stuff like this, um, trust your own medical community. So if you have a naturopath, if you have an MD or someone or a nutritionist in your experience, you want to make sure that any dietary changes, particularly if you have medical conditions or you're on medication, you're doing something that is recommended by your doctor. Because I am not giving medical information here. I'm just giving you my own personal experience. So if you have questions about keto, I can certainly answer those in the chat if they're just basic things or give you resources. There are wonderful recipes and things out there. So just be mindful that what you eat matters. It's going to impact your psychological um, experience, and it's also going to impact your energy field, your biofield. Okay, so let's talk about psychology. Psychology is super, 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 super important. And for many, many years, shame was really married to any psychological conditions. There were two peas in a pod. And for whatever reason, um, we as humans did not value the importance of positive mental health. And it is part of your energy system and a part of your physical system. It's kind of like that link in between, right? So our narrative, our story that we tell ourselves is the reality that we manifest out in the world. So if we are not being mindful about our psychology and creating good health in the psychological world, it's going to impact the reality that we have outside of ourselves. So we know anyone who has ever done anything to do with abundance, manifestation, just the word manifestation, read The Secret, right? And it's like, just think positive thoughts and positive things will come to you. Yes, that is certainly true. But it's also true that if you are doing affirmations that are positive, yet the underlying belief system that you have is counterproductive to that. So your deep core belief is, I am not worthy of, or I do not deserve, or I live in a place of lack, or you have poverty mentality, then you can say all the affirmations you want. You could wallpaper your house with the affirmation of I'm a millionaire. And if the underlying belief is not considered, then what'll happen is that underlying belief or unconscious, it's often unconscious, we don't even know it's there, that unconscious belief will prevent us from manifesting. So if you're doing a manifesting technique and you're finding that it's not working, like some people that like I've been doing abundance manifestation for the last 10 years, and I'm like, I'm gonna say you need a different way to come at this thing. Because if after 10 years you have not manifested what you're seeking to manifest, and remember, incremental goals, we don't, you set yourself up for success, right? Starting to check that underlying thought pattern, what's happening in the body. Again, your physical body is going to give you some information. So depression, they often say is anger turned inward, and or thinking about the past. And those I've heard anxiety is fear of the future. So coming back to that present moment, checking in with the physical body, what's happening? Am I feeling anxious? What's going on under that? Asking the questions and setting the intention to really truly uncover what it is that's going on in your psychological world that is creating the reality outside of yourself. You're welcome, Ezra. I see the questions coming in, so I'm definitely going to come back to those questions. Give me just a minute. So mindfulness is the key to this. Mindfulness, just taking a moment. Don't beat yourself up. You don't need to shame yourself. You don't need to blame yourself. You don't need to shame or blame anyone else either. Um, and is starting to be mindful. What is happening in your physical body? How does that relate to your psychological world? Or what's going on in your psychology? And how is that making your body feel, right? So when I'm anxious, I tend to tense up, right? So when I start feeling tense, I'm like, is this anxiety or am I cold? What's happening in my physical body? So start looking at how these two things relate to each other just through mindfulness. And as you become aware of psychological patterns, you don't need to make anybody wrong. You don't need to blame your mom and dad. We definitely, family of origin is important to know where these patterns come from, but there doesn't need to be any blame. You can literally just say, oh, this is interesting. my mom does that, or my dad does that, or oh, I picked that up from a friend when I was 7 years old who I used to hang out with all the time, or our teenage friend, right? There is always, you can dial it back and go, oh, that's interesting. Once you make the connection, there's often a little spark that happens in the brain. The categories in the brain open up, different filing cabinets, I like to say, where it's like, oh, new information, slot that in there. Um, and looking at trauma, we all have some form of trauma, and it could be a surprise, right? It doesn't have to be, oh, I was sexually abused as a child, or my parents beat me when I was a child, or there was drug use in my household. All of those are realities for a lot of people. So, yes, if you have those stories, that's a great place to start. And dealing with trauma of your past could be a little bit more simple too, that we don't even realize. Like when I was a child, apparently a lot of trauma happened for me because my mother thought that children could not process horror films. So when I was very, very young, she would put it on because she wanted to see it, or take me to the movies because she wanted to see it before they restricted children going into the theater. Um, and so I had trauma from being exposed to the movie The Exorcist when I was 6 or 7 years old when it first came out. My mom was a very young mother, so she was feeling like she needed to have those experiences. And so taking her child with her was the way that she sort of thought, well, it doesn't matter anyway. Um, I'll just take her. She'll be fine because I want to go have this experience. Was it the best? Well, in the end, not for me. It created a lot of trauma, which I discussed in another one of my talks. But don't discount something just because it seems innocuous. Go ahead and take a look at it and be like, oh, that created a little trauma for me, right? So it's like how we handle it and how we express it can be can be chill. We can be really mellow about it. We don't have to go into a lot of drama. But if you want to go into drama, hey, that's okay too. Family communication patterns. Next time you have a family experience, just see the way that everyone talks to each other and check to see if maybe there's something in there that is reaffirming or recreating a negative pattern or lifestyle for you. Again, just information and becoming mindful. And then habits. What do we have? What habits do we have? Um, I see a lot of habits around food people have, a lot of challenges. In my family, there were a lot of overweight people in my family. A lot of people struggled with food addiction in my family, documented actual food addiction in my family. And so their habits, the habits that we acquired as children of, I grew up in the 70s, where packaged processed food was very popular. And I ate a lot of meals out at fast food because my parents both worked and they were both very busy. And that all impacted my digestive system in a certain type of way that created problems later. But sometimes the habits that we create in our lives will create an outer world that we're not in agreement with anymore. And sometimes we need to check the habits that we have existing, food or otherwise, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But just looking at those habits and saying, is this supporting the life that I want, the future that I want? And sometimes we need to question those habits and say, where do they come from? Why do I have this going on? How do I change it? And again, gentle, kind, loving, take it into meditation and be good to yourself as you are becoming more mindful of situations. Sense of humor, I think, often helps too. Like, I can't believe I'm doing that thing. All right, some practical steps that I recommend for trauma if anyone's dealing with trauma. Therapy, of course. Find someone who works with your vibe. EMDR, eye movement desensitization. Reprocessing, it's called eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So it's called bilateral tapping in some fields. Used to be eye movement, so they would take your eyes side to side, and it would basically be rewiring the brain from your trauma. Or they'll tap you on the tops of your hands, right, left, etc. Or I've had a practitioner tap me on the shoulders. My preference is to do it on the hands. There's also a light bar that they follow sometimes with the eyes. There are many ways into this. And one of my practitioners, because of my neurological condition, I couldn't do the blinking light thing. She had a headset for me, and it would do a tone in each ear. EMDR is very highly effective, according to research, for trauma and PTSD. So if you have any of that, try see if you can find an EMDR practitioner that works for you. Also, in that same vein is something called brain spotting. Apparently, they have discovered in studies that you will hold a traumatic experience somewhere in your brain, and it is located through the visual function of your eyes. So in brain spotting, the practitioner will give you something to look at. It's usually like a small tennis ball on top of a pen kind of thing. And you'll find the place in your brain where trauma is lodged, and they help to ease and release that. Very effective as well. I've done that. Tons of other energy work out there. If you haven't done family constellation therapy or family constellation work, I found that to be super duper effective. It's a kind of a combination of physical body, energy body, dealing with past stuff. It was really effective for me. And there are myriad psychological, wonderful psychological expressions out there. So if you have something going on in the psychological body, the way we take care of that in terms of hygiene is to just begin to really work with it. It's all a part of taking care of this host that houses our spirit, our soul, the life force that is here within us in this lifetime. And this is an important one, is be mindful of the impression food. So this is impacting your psychological body more than your physical body. Anything that's going on in psychology is going to manifest here in this physical body, always. So impression food is what I call the stuff that we take in through our eyes or the experiences that we have. So be mindful of what we are allowing in through our senses, what we listen to, the types of music, what our eyes are seeing, all the media stuff and how that impacts us. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about in one of his courses, he talks about advertising, drugs on television, how if you hear it enough times or it's presented in such a way, we are impressionable when we are in certain states of being, that information may go in and start to lead us to believe that maybe we have those conditions. So that's a little bit of what I would call impression food. So advertising. Anyway, just be mindful of it. No hard, fast rules here, but it's information for cleaning and doing hygiene for the psychological part of our body. All right, now the important part, the juicy part, the energy field. So the biofield is the energy field that circulates around the body. We sometimes erroneously think that it is just outside the body, right? The aura, sometimes called the aura, which we think is specific to around the head. There's truth to that. And also we could talk about our aura as being the entire energy body that goes around the physical body. Goes up through the central nervous system, out through every single nerve in the body, and of course, all those energy centers that we talk about, this basic seven. There are also myriad energy centers in the body, the hands, the feet, and just so many that it's feeding out into the energy field, but it's also coming back in. So as I said in the previous talk, the energy field goes out the top of the head, about 18 inches. That number can change. It can expand out or pull back in depending on the environment you're in. Circles outside the body, out the width of the outstretched arms. So I'm 5 feet tall, so approximately 5 feet that way, because they say that the outstretched arms is you're similar to your height. And then it goes back down into the earth and up through that first energy center at the perineum, the base of the spine, and goes up through the central nervous system, essentially sending out all the information that we're picking up out there. So think about this, you're in other people's space, someone else's home, out at the mall, in Costco, wherever you are. His energy field is kind of grabbing some stuff, right? And it's attempting to clear itself by going down into the earth and pushing that energy into the earth. But it can't always keep up with what's happening in our outer environment. So as this begins to circle, of course, the energy centers, remember those cones, goes out, circles all the way around, goes back in through the back. There's an opening for each energy center, front and back. 1 and 7 are connected, and it goes this way. Okay, so a lot of communication happening with the energy body in a constant circular pattern. things that will impact the energy body. Again, impressions and experiences that we're having outside. Have you ever been in a movie where you are immersed in the experience? Yes, of course. That's what makes Hollywood so popular, is that we can literally leave our world behind and you can lose time and space by sitting in a movie, which I would call, and I've heard Dr. Joe Dispenza say this, that's the trance state. Anytime you are out of your body like that and immersed in another place, which hopefully it's the quantum, you are you've left the physical body. And so we're much more impressionable when we're in situations where we're not, where the mindfulness is gone. And I love going to movies, and you can use it as a tool for other things, as far as needing to get out of like a head thing that's going on. We can talk about that another time. But being mindful of it and how it's impacting your energy body is going to, your physical body is going to then create a situation in your energy field. So as a shaman, I learned how to tune into people's energy fields. And for some people, I find massive tears in their energy fields, or it's just shredded. I've worked with people with PTSD who have been in the military, and their energy field is shredded sometimes. Not everybody, but the few people that I've worked with who have tried everything else, they've come to me energy work because allopathic medicine didn't work, psychological help didn't work, and what's going on now, they're looking to the energy field. So when I have that experience as a shaman where the energy field is completely shredded, it can be knitted back together. It can be sewn and tied back together. But unless that underlying stuff is dealt with, you got to do a little bit of work on all three levels, right? So what I'm saying basically is these things are not independent. They're interacting together. And if you are working on something on the physical level and you're not getting results, like arthritis is an example, runs in my family, then you start to look at the psychological. Am I holding things in my joints? Read Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. She talks about how individual parts of the body will hold energy in very specific ways. And once you've uncovered pieces in these other areas and you're looking to the energy field, it's like, what's going on in the biofield now? Where is that imprint for arthritis located in my energy field? Because maybe it's not just lodged in the body. Maybe your energy field has an imprint as well, because we do have imprints there that are informing the physical and psychological bodies, and they're in the energy field. Okay, so these three things work together. It's actually all one thing, but I've separated out into three for the sake of the conversation. All right, clearing your energy centers is the perfect way to start. Is that going to be the end all? Probably not. But it is very, very important, and you'll see changes in that over time. It's just a little bit slower. Then maybe some other things, if you have targeted things you wish to work on or try to remove, like erroneous beliefs that are nagging and won't go away. All right, so when you're clearing the energy centers, I recommend a few things. One is grounding. So if you are not grounded, a lot of people are not, particularly those of us who are highly sensitive. We are just naturally in the air. So if you're looking at the elements, earth, air, fire, water, if you're heavy on air like I am, it's all over my astrology chart. That's, again, just an information tool that's out there to help with energy. Grounding down is really important. So I recommend a few things for grounding. First and foremost, get outside, take your shoes off, and stand on the ground. If you live in Minnesota and it's the middle of winter, that's going to be challenging. Or if you live in Arizona, it's the middle of summer, it's going to be challenging. So a lot of people are in situations where maybe standing outside barefoot in the moment is not the easiest or the safest thing to do, or it's not even feasible. I have other recommendations as well. And that is sitting down in meditation and setting what I call your root down. So with your intention, your eyes are closed, you're sitting in meditation, you want to send down the root chakra into the earth. So take like a tendril of energy from your root chakra, from that perineum, the base of the spine, and imagine that it is like an inverted tree. It's heading down into the earth, and you want to see it grounding you. So as I said in one of my previous talks, my symbol for the first energy center often is a double tree. It's a tree that goes up into the sky and it's a tree that goes down into the earth. My fingers are the leaves, right? So from that first energy center, which is where my wrists are connecting, I have the vision of a tree going down into the earth, inverted, a tree going up into the sky. I'm connecting as far down into that earth as I can with that inverted tree that I visualize as coming out of the base of my spine because I want to anchor my energy down in and ground myself into the earth. Um, the the image that you create is perfectly fine. You don't need to use mine. If you want to borrow it, great. I hope it's helpful. But just create something that works for you. So if you can't physically get outside, ground yourself on the earth. In nature is best. The concrete is fine if it's all you got, but trying to ground yourself on the earth. Dirt is great, grass is great. Arizona, there's not a lot of dirt, it's a lot of sand. That works too. The beach is fine. Just get yourself in on the earth or using a visualization in your meditation. Um, the ocean's fabulous for pulling your energy into your body as well. Become more mindful. If those things are not available to you, then I would recommend the company called Earthing, earthing.com, and they sell what is called an earthing products. If you have not looked into earthing before, put that on your list today. Do that, earthing.com. I found their products to be amazing for grounding energy down. Keep in mind that too long on the earthing mat or with the earthing pad or the earthing blanket or the earthing socks, it will start, you'll feel a little too grounded and it can make you feel just a little bit almost spaced out, or you start to sort of leave your body because your energy is now grounding. So I have one I'm going to show you because I use it all the time. This is the throw. It looks like this. It's got little, little threads, silver threads that go through it. And what it does is it's got a little connector here and it hooks into the grounding outlet. Now, in different countries, I don't know how it works. In the US, we have a 3-prong outlet, and the 2 flat ones are where you get electricity. The little round one is where you ground. So when you plug it in, it looks like this. There's the grounding piece. It goes just into the grounding part of the outlet. And they have many different products. I recommend for people who do have joint issues to get the sheet. They're expensive, very well worth it, but you'll find a huge difference if you sleep on it at night. Mariana, yes, hugging trees does count as grounding. You can't go barefoot. Yeah, tree hugger right here. So I do recommend that. And grounding yourself daily is very highly beneficial. So, and for long term, I do recommend that when you go on vacation, you have what I call media detox. That's going to help for grounding as well. Media pulls us up into our heads and pulls us out of that grounding sensation. So yeah, for sure. Very practical things for clearing the energy field. I have a lot of little ones. Use what resonates. Try it out and see what works. First is one very simple bath. If you don't have a bathtub, that's okay. You can get a bucket and put your feet in it. A cup of sea salt, Epsom salt is fine, and a cup of baking soda. That is just a general energy cleansing. If you ever have any energy work done by a practitioner, if you ever go to a therapy session where it feels like you've cleared your energy as well, do this bath. This is wonderful. It's very basic. Of course, unless you're sensitive to those 2 ingredients, cup of sea salt, cup of baking soda. I've always worked with that as well. If you have a giant bathtub, I was in a Japanese bathtub where you sit up rather than lie down. And it was a massive tub. I actually like quadrupled that just because the water to substance ratio was so different. So you can work with that, but more doesn't necessarily mean better. It could mean that your tissues just get a little bit more sensitive with all that salt. So if you're doing it in a bucket, check it out. See if a cup and a cup works. But try with your own bathtub, your own body, your own sensitivities, baking soda. sea salt. Super easy. I also do what's called a sun practice. For those of you who don't live in a sunny climate, this is really especially great for you because sun helps the body increase the production of vitamin D. Lack of vitamin D, you can read all about it. There are all kinds of problems that come with a lack of vitamin D. So I recommend what I call the sun practice, where you go out into the sun. For those of us who have the space, if you can do full body sunning, that's great. Don't do anything illegal. Um, but as much skin as you can have in the sun, great. Like a bathing suit is perfect. And I recommend no more than 20 minutes. And again, if you have medical situations where you can't be in the sun, please follow your own doctor's orders. But for me, it's 10 minutes on each side if I'm lying down, if I'm just out gardening or something in a bathing suit, or at the ocean. And it's without sunscreen. It's just taking in the sun to help the body increase that production of vitamin D. And there are other benefits as well for the energy field around you. Uh, Again, 10 to 20 minutes is enough without sunscreen. Otherwise, I always recommend, taking care of your skin. It is the largest organ in your body, and it takes in more information than anything else. Your skin. So take good care of your skin. Light sun practice. Forest bathing is also a good one if you don't have a forest anywhere around you. This could be tricky. But forest bathing is something they sort of invented in Japan. You can read about it on the internet as well. And forest bathing is basically going out into the forest and just being. Leave your phone in the car, any technology, you're just going out in efforts to sort of detox that energy. Now remember, our energy body is very tiny compared to the giant earth that we live on. The earth can help us process these things. And that's what we're doing when we are out in nature. We are saying to the earth, trees, ground beneath me, plants, can you help me clear this energy? Think of it as like we have a symbiotic relationship with our carbon dioxide, photosynthesis, right? Process of creating more air and clean air on the earth. The trees are already helping us out with our breath, our breathing process. The same is true of our physical body and our energy body. Nature is out there to help us process. We are in a symbiotic relationship with our planet. So just set that intention when you go out there. It's like I'm clearing the energy body and make an agreement or have a conversation with the land in your backyard or your front yard or the trail that you're walking on or the creek that you put yourself in or the ocean that you're visiting. Um, Create that relationship with mindfulness, with intention, that when you're clearing your energy body, that it's like, hey, we're going to do this together, because that's literally what the earth is doing for us. And it's not just our carbon dioxide returning to oxygen through, the leafy process of photosynthesis. So it's a bigger thing. EMF reduction, y'all, if you don't know about EMFs, bless your heart for not knowing yet, but go ahead and check it out. Electromagnetic frequencies. I'm sitting in a zone right now where I have a computer, an external monitor. This is a whole setup because I work from home. So I have a little EMF pod happening right here. And how do we eliminate EMFs? Well, there's a lot of research out there about it. I use a scalar ring that is connected to a booster. I've told you guys about that in a previous conversation. That scalar ring is designed based on the lost qubit, we call it, the sacred lost qubit. You can look that up on Etsy. People sell these scalar rings as far as the booster box. You'd have to contact me directly so that I can give you that information, because I don't know that that's actually sold out there. This was custom made for me. And the scalar ring itself, though, is very, very effective. So do a little bit of research about scalar rings and their technology and how it helps to clear your space and protect you against EMFs. There are a couple other products that I recommend, and I'm going to put this one in the chat. This one's a company out of Japan. It's called weyonenergy.org. Okay. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Whatever, if y'all speak Japanese, I apologize. I'm not sure how to pronounce that word. But they have a plug-in device. So check out all of their devices because some things are just very basic, like something you can put in your pocket, something you can carry in your, you know, your purse or your fanny pack or crossbody bag, whatever you carry, that will help protect you from energies outside you. It's not just EMFs. Um, I do not have a particular recommendation for an EMF meter, but I know the ones on Amazon do work. So yeah, I think pretty much any one that you get, I don't think the price really matters in terms of that. You're just looking to see if you're getting an overload of EMFs. And yeah, so try not to stress out too much about that. But that device, that plug-in device that I recommend on that website that I put there is very expensive. It's about a couple $1,000s, but it is really effective if you have a business. I highly recommend it. Think of it as a business expense. It will help raise the energy or the light in your business or in your home so that it pushes out the dark and the negative energies. So again, a part of that energy hygiene is keeping your space clear as well. Then, of course, there are many, many energy practitioners out there. If you have one with whom you resonate, that's great. Um, you can check out my website for information as well. Energy practitioners are great. I do recommend energy practitioners, especially if you are beginning to hone your craft of taking care of your energy body, your biofield, simply because many of you already have the physical body managed. Your diet's great. You're already doing all the things. And you've dealt with your psychology. I have been in therapy since I was a teenager because I did endure a tremendous amount of trauma in my childhood. And I have found it to just be something that I really enjoy. And I've tried many different kinds of therapy. So I have already handled a lot of the psychological stuff along the way. So if you're doing a deep dive into the energy body and clearing your biofield, check out the energy practitioners. Again, sound therapy, yoga contributes to that. Okay, you see there's crossover there. And shamans or, you know, throw it out there on the internet. And again, I have some resources on my website you can certainly check. It's jan-wakefield.com is mine. Akua, thank you for coming. So this is great. Energy practitioners. Now, the other thing I can recommend for clearing the energy, the biofield, is dowsing. For those of you who don't know what dowsing is, check it out online because there's a lot of information. I can give you just a briefing. We're only here very briefly, so I'm not going to give you the full spectrum of all the information about all these little things. So feel free to come back and watch the recording of this if you need more information, or always reach out in the Telegram, that chat. I can put things there too. Is dowsing. And dowsing is using a pendulum. And if you don't know what a pendulum is, it's like I should have my pendulum here, but I don't because it's behind me. It is literally like sometimes it's a stone or a piece of metal on the end of a long string. And a necklace is a good example of a pendulum. So I have a set of keys here. Looks like a pendulum. Things like that. You can really use anything. I could totally use these keys as a pendulum if I really needed it in the moment, like in my car. I've had this experience. So the pendulum is very good. You can do a representation of your energy centers on a piece of paper. You just make a piece of paper and 7 little circles, and you can use your pendulum for dowsing. So again, counterclockwise is clearing, clockwise is drawing in. But what you want to allow with your pendulum is for it to give you the information. So you tune in with your intention, say, I'd like to clear my energy centers and see what it's doing. Is it going counterclockwise on its own? Yeah, it's clearing, right? Is it going clockwise on its own? It's drawing energy or information in. So if we're feeling something in our energy field or in our physical body, in the psychological body, and we're using dowsing and the energy centers to get information, maybe it's a depletion, not a clearing that you need, right? Maybe it's a depletion. Maybe there's something that energy that needs to come in to create protection or create a sense of wholeness in the body. So often we think, I have to clear, I have to clear, I have to clear, I have to clear, I have to clear. That could actually deplete you. So be mindful that there is time when you need to, again, do self-care, where you're adding energy in, and a time where you need to clear it out. So I've met people who go a little overboard on cleansing the body, right? Too much cleansing actually is not always a good thing. It can deplete your body. So too much parasite cleansing, too much, what do they call it? The like colonics, or intestinal cleansing. Or I spent years trying to do that, thinking I had migraines because of some toxicity in my organs. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I don't have enough fats in my system to protect the nerves. It was completely the opposite of taking away and clearing. It was more about adding something in that was more nurturing. So, as we're beginning to understand the biofield, how psychology is involved, how the physical body is involved, recognize there's a balance. Again, I always say effort and surrender, but it's the same kind of concept. There's a balance between releasing energy and clearing and nurturing and bringing in. I find a lot of my clients tend to, or they're overachievers and they're trying hard to work really hard at it. You being a little bit more aggressive with the cleansing and the clearing and the clearing and the clearing. And instead, it's more of the nurturing and drawing in. And, maybe arthritis in my family isn't about toxicity or a psychological pattern. Maybe it's about the fact that they're not taking care of themselves. They're putting others first. They're not making good boundaries with themselves, right? So it could be many different things that create physical problems in the body or psychological issues. And don't just jump on one thing. It's like come at it from several different directions. Think of it as an exploration. It's like you're going into your energy field or going into an experience with a sense of wonder. Like, oh, I don't know what this is about. And I read that one thing, and maybe it's not that one thing. Maybe it's something else. So allow that exploration. Your pendulum can help with that too. You can get information. Yes, no. Yes, I often think it's right back, side to side. Mustafa, thank you for coming. I appreciate you. If you're having to leave. Oh no, you're asking a question. Sorry. I thought you were going. Daily recharging for those who think they're low on energy. So yes, Mustafa said he came in late. So energy for sure. Yes. Charging, fun practice, breath work, meditation, physical body care, massage, acupuncture. So all of these things can simultaneously release and bring energy in and make the body balance. You want to bring it back into homeostasis. So the example I like to use, I do equine assisted learning workshops. Again, if you want to know anything about that, it's on my website. And what we talk about in those retreats is that a horse will always be, and animals just in general, will always be in a state of homeostasis. And what we say in terms of horses is they come back to grazing, right? So a horse will always be grazing. It'll eat itself to death. And when does it decide to get active? When it feels there's a predator, right? It could be a human or it could be a mountain lion. And so what happens with the horse, it'll be grazing, head down, chomp, chomp, chomp on the grass. And suddenly you'll see its ears do something, right? It'll be like, right? Little antenna kind of. It's like, oh, or it'll twitch. You'll see actually the energy move down its flanks. So the horse is now activated when that happens. And it's checking its surroundings. It might still be eating, but don't mistake. It's got something coming in, some information coming in. So when a horse then is activated, a mountain lion's coming at it, it's going to bolt, right? Anyone who's ever ridden a horse is probably like, knows what the bolt feeling feels like. Because horses, you know, they're wild animals. And if you're on its back, it's going to be like, yeah, no, I don't think so. So a horse or any kind of animal is just giving us information indicating that we are that sensitive too. We are perceiving when something outside of us is not acceptable. Now, it could be real or it could just be perceived based on an internal thing, conversation for another day. But what we want to do when you're talking about recharging is come back into homeostasis. We want to come back to grazing. What do we need? Do we wake up and we're unsettled already? What do we need? Is it meditation to come back into homeostasis, back to grazing? Yeah, that's recharging. Or sun practice. Or Naomi's like, girl, I got to get out to the beach today. And I know that's her saying, I need to go and recharge, right, out in nature. So, whatever it is that you do for recharging, I've given a bunch of suggestions. Hopefully, those will help. But that grounding mat could also help too, where it's like I'm just out of balance and I need to come back here to center. I'm meeting at work or someone triggers you, coming back to center. That recharging is part of that process as well. All right, and now you know how to use your dowsing tool. I will do a whole thing just on the dowsing tool. So don't worry about that. We'll come back to it in another talk because dowsing is a big part of my world. Yeah, Ezra, come on, you can join us at the beach. Anyone who wants to come to the beach? Come on down. Is your home so important? And I am going to go back to all the questions. I'll scroll down. Is your home is a representation of your physical body. Make no mistake, when you're in your home, and I'm telling you that your energy's circling around like this, yeah, is that you are informing your entire space, your entire home. So you have a giant home, guess what? You got a bigger project involved, unless you're one of those people that already has it handled. But if you've ever been in a hoarder house, right? How do you feel? Like, ah, you feel squeezed by all the stuff, right? Hoarder houses are really hard to be in. My mom's a hoarder, so it's really tricky. I don't visit her that often. But I can't be in her house. It's very, very tight and very restrictive and very, and so sometimes if we want to change in the biofield, we need to clean our space, right? Throw stuff away. Err on the side of getting rid of more than less. So our physical space is a big part of our energy field as well. So remember I said that your energy field will expand out and it'll contract in, right? So you're in Walmart, you feel a little anxious, your energy center is gonna start to suck in and pull tight around you. And you can do that with your intention as well. Say, hey, energy center, energy field, come on in a little closer. But when you're in your home, what happens is that energy field expands out and out to pretty much every single corner of your home. Big space, small space, it doesn't matter. It's all about how you take care of your home or your cubicle at work is how it's an indication of your inner world, right? So keeping it clean. For those of you who are really busy, as I am very busy, I just hire a cleaning service to come in and do it for me. Every other week, I have a team of people come in and they just clean my whole house for me. So then it's just maintenance for me. But I learned that when I was trying to do it myself and I couldn't keep up with it just because I'm very, very busy, it wasn't getting done. So, and dust like this is okay. Like, but after growing up in a hoarder home, I don't like having clutter or papers or anything. So I have people come in and do it for me. Also, making your life a little easier. We don't recognize this as part of our energy world. Is it a struggle for you to just get through the door, right? So finding your keys, carrying too many keys, you can simplify your life by having a keyless entry to your house, right? You want keyless entry to your energy field for yourself? Yeah, you sure do. So start looking at the things that are around you in terms of metaphors. What do they mean to you? Keyless entry might mean nothing to you, but it was a big deal for me because I always felt like I was struggling at the front door. So I can do it on my app, lock and unlock my front door. I can do it in the elevator, doors open when I get there. Okay, just making my life a little easier. In addition to that, storing stuff if you need to. Get it out of your space. You might find too that if you're in your closet and it's packed full of stuff, the truth is you probably only wear 5 or 10 things regularly. Box up everything else and put it away and see, do you actually need that much? Sometimes really what we need is to declutter our spaces, our closets, our pantries, whatever we have. Throw away expired food, clean out your refrigerator. If you want energy to shift in your physical body, try cleaning your house and emptying out. Do spring cleaning year round. Once a month, go through your house and just give it away. If you're into consignment, great. I don't like to be hassled with any of that stuff. I don't have time. But I literally just give it all away. As a matter of fact, I give it to my cleaning crew. When they leave, I always have boxes and bags of stuff for them to take. And yeah, so in that generosity then cycles back around. All right, and definitely remove funky items. This is a good one. And a lot of people do not think about the importance of this. So have you gotten gifts from people where you're like, every time I look at it, it reminds me of an experience that I don't want to remember? Okay, sentimentality. Cut it off. Get rid of the things that actually have weird energy. Did you ever buy anything at a thrift store where you're like, that thing just speaks, like it's got a voice? Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Just anything in your house. Walk by, go through a room. One day, just take one room and go through and be like, this does not inspire light, love, and joy in me. Get rid of it. Okay. I rarely ever buy things that are antiques. I rarely ever buy things that are from used clothing stores. I used to do that. I don't anymore because the energetic patterning of it from wherever it came from sometimes or oftentimes creates havoc in my physical space. So while it may be great and you're feeling like, oh, this wonderful piece of sacred art that's from India, that's 1,000 years old. It's so wonderful when you get it in the space and you bring it home and then it starts interacting with everything else, all your other stuff. And it's like, why are these things in my home not getting along? Right? And getting along. And you'll start seeing things like glasses will break, or you accidentally light something on fire when you're trying to light a candle, or you trip a lot, or so start being mindful when your energy pattern shifts and you're having experiences in your home that suggest that the energy's slightly off. There may be an item in your house that you've just brought in that needs to go away. It may not play well with everything else in the space. Gift it, give it back, sell it, throw it away, pass it on, whatever needs to happen. So just starting again, when we are clearing our energy, and this is part of personal hygiene, if our space is funky and off, same thing will happen. It'll start to impact our physical body. So Naomi, you can use the pendulum. Yes, you can use the pendulum to clear your space. I've got tons of things to say about the pendulum. Not a focus for today, but we're going to come back to it. And you should clear the energy of the items in your home. Everything for me goes in that scalar ring. So you can raise the energy of your food. Just don't put medications inside your scalar rings. It could change the way they interact in your body. I sometimes put supplements in and sometimes I don't. I'm very careful about that, but I will clear the energy of food and items that come into my house. And be mindful, it doesn't necessarily mean brand new things. I had a piece of artwork that came into my house that I tried clearing and I couldn't, and it was super duper funky and I had to get rid of it. The scalar ring, I can't hold mine up right now because it's attached in the living room. I move it around the house. It is, it's two pieces of copper wire, thin copper wire that are wound together. So they take a long rod and they twist them with a drill on either end, and then they make it into a full circle and they solder it together. And mine is approximately, Anya, 25 inches in diameter. And I'll put a picture of it in the Telegram chat so you all can see what it looks like. And I will put a picture of that other device, the one that you plug into the wall from the link that I put in the chat, in there as well, that Telegram chat. All right, I'm going to go back to the questions. Let's see. In the book of the shaman, it says that part 3 is only for trained masters. What do you think? Is there anything about black magic or dark forces? Okay, so good question, Karen. What is a trained master? I guess that's a question you have to ask yourself. So if you don't feel comfortable with being a trained master, don't do that part. But if you feel you've gotten there after reading the first 2 chapters or the first 2 sections.
No, I haven't read because he says that the second is kind of difficult and you should be careful. And then he writes that like the third part you shouldn't do without having been to a trained master.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so what is the suggestion? Because I'm really curious and
yeah.
But I think you have to be or I think I want to be very acting responsible with energy.
Yes.
So that's why I thought I ask you if you just talk about the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Shaman Healer Sage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can come back and do book talks another time for sure.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah,
but I,
yeah.
but I, yeah, that'd be great actually. We could do book talks, man. We could go on.
Or we can
I'll
chat
be
on
doing these
WhatsApp. I
talks
don't
for
mind.
life, you guys. Welcome. We're gonna keep you around forever. I love until I have no more to say or no one shows up. I'll keep coming. So the book Shaman Healer Sage is a wonderful book. Dr. Alberto Villoldo's work was wonderful. When I went through his program, it was amazing. In this book, again, I really recommend it. If there are areas where you don't feel doing his practices resonates with you, definitely listen to your intuition. If you have a background where you've done all kinds of other things and you're like, yeah, I got this, then roll with that too. It really is up to you. But the information in the earlier part of the book where he goes in talking about the energy centers, it's a little like the talk I did about the energy centers. There's so much information out there. You could read 10 different books and 10 people will say it in 10 different ways. So gather the information that connects with you, rest of it, let it sit back there in the mind wherever it parked itself, and it may emerge again another time. Um, Black magic and dark forces, yes, and that'll be a talk for another time. When we're talking, I possibly could pull that into the pendulum discussion as well, because there is such a thing as dark forces. There are demons out there. There is black magic. For every positive thing that we experience in the world, there's a negative counterpart, and that's just how it's wired, how this human experience is wired. There's the positive and the negative, and they often are to the same degree. And so dark forces are around there. The best thing we can do is begin with these basic things that I'm discussing today, the basic clearing, the energy field, the basic clearing of the body and the psychology, until we get more into, and once you've done that, you've done the easier clearing part, the basics, then we fine tune it when there are things that are too stubborn or persistent to clear with just the basics or just with meditation even. So I'll definitely come back to that. It's an important topic. Fast like a girl, and it sounds very worthwhile. What did you use to test urine ketosis? You can do the ketosis strips. You can get them at any pharmacy. They're urine based, or you urinate on them. Who did you take all sugars out or just refined like cane sugar syrups? Everything, fruit and everything. So when you're in ketosis or you're doing a ketogenic diet for neurological conditions, remember, if you don't know this information, the ketogenic diet was created for children who had seizures, like hundreds of them per day. And so a doctor figured this out. A doctor figured out that it would reduce their seizures to like less than 10 a day. So the research started out with children with epilepsy and terrible seizures all day long. So what happened though is they found it was effective for a lot of other neurological conditions. And again, I don't recommend doing this with with everyone. If it's something you want to do check with a nutritionist, get all the fact information and do it yourself. Again, I had a doctor's guidance on that. But there's a ton of information out there. If you haven't watched, you can watch videos by Dr. Eric Berg, ERICBERG.com. I think he has like 2,500 videos on keto, and he is a doctor. So not saying that he's your doctor, but he is a guy out there who has a lot of information. He breaks it down into small chunks. You can listen to it little by little. Have used EMDR and tapping and it works? Yes. It also doesn't require you to go into the trauma. Exactly. Right. So this is a really good point. CSR, don't know what your name is, but I'm going to use your initials. This is a really, really important thing to know. Sometimes in talk therapy, when we are reiterating the story over and over again, it's just like telling it to your best friend. The more you repeat it, the more you affirm that narrative for yourself. So EMDR is wonderful in the sense that it does not require you to go into the trauma. You peripherally bring it up so that you can tap it out. They call tapping it out. So it is really wonderful. And do be mindful that if you have trauma or an experience where you're repeating it again and again and again and again and again and again and again, complaining again and again, and again, that is a stuck pattern and a stuck habit that need to talk about as a stuck habit. You're not getting the information that the story is trying to tell you. Maybe stop saying it and see how that goes. but you can use EMDR for trauma and helping to avoid that story. When Dr. Joe says in the meditation, draw the experience to you, where goes the energy to? Is the first energy center or the eighth? That's a good question. So when Dr. Joe is saying draw the experience to you in meditation, for me, it comes as a full body wave. So for individual people, you may be perceiving that differently. So my experience is that all my energy centers are open. I am in the quantum field, exchanging information through that same method of energy exchange, just like we talked with the energy centers this way, right? So for me, it's coming in through that entire energy exchange experience, that circulation of the energy body for me. So I don't have one particular energy center through which it's coming, it's all of them. So make, be mindful or check, just sort of see what kind of energy you're getting as well. We did hugging trees, EMF meters. I do recommend EMF meters, particularly if you're in any tech industry or you work at home online, you're on the computer a lot. Sure, check to see what's happening in your space. Naomi, yes, connecting with nature, clearing the field with pendulums. Recharging is important. I think we've got all of these spaces. The scalar ring I'll put in the chat. Esra, yeah, I have an item it has the holy symbolic. Yeah, exactly. That is it's really tricky to get rid of items that sometimes we have sentimentality or some attachment to it for whatever reason. The hardest things to get rid of were like my grandmother's wedding dress, and things like that. And then eventually I did. I got rid of everything because I was like, no, I have a picture of it that's going to work for me too. And sometimes getting rid of pictures is important too. I go into some people's homes and their walls are wallpapered with photos of their children from birth to now they're 50. And I'm like overwhelmed by the story. Overwhelmed by the story. So sometimes for me, and just being a super sensitive person, I'm very careful. I have 4 or 5 pictures out of my family members. And what I do is when I get another one, I put it in the same frame. So they're all stacked in there. So if I want to remember birth, kindergarten, first grade, 7th grade, I can just open the back of the frame and take out all the photos and see the whole collection and stick them all right back in there. That's my strategy. Instead of putting them all up in individual frames, I put up the most current or the one that's relevant in the moment and spin it out. You can do it that way too. That's just my strategy to still have photos of loved ones, but not, I personally feel overwhelmed sometimes when there's just a lot of pictures on the walls. But I have to, that minimalist thing. And I did find I went to somebody's house recently and they had a electronic photo frame. And what it did was it kept rotating the pictures through. So there's just one photo frame. And then apparently you can remotely send pictures in. So it's a perfect thing for your elderly parents, especially if they're low tech and they want to see you. Very, very good for that kind of thing. You can send them one and then you can update the pictures. That's kind of cool. Oh, Crystal, there you are. Okay, CSR, that's Crystal. Thank you for showing me your face. I knew who you were. It's funny. Concerning the sacred piece, crosses, do you bless them and then get rid of them? What is your approach? Yeah, I've had a lot of crosses in my life. I did grow up Catholic. Jewelry pieces, especially, things like that. I will cleanse them. So this is a good thing, and it wasn't a topic for this conversation, but I'm going to put it in there. Remember the saltwater bath I was telling you about? You can do it with all your stuff. So my approach to cleansing things is and some things you can't put in water is to submerge, like all the crystals, jewelry, etc., salt and baking soda, water, and then put it out during the full moon. So you can moon cleanse things as well. You can moon bathe as well as sunbathe. So if you can moon bathe, moon bathe. But stuff, I know that there are a lot of crosses that are made of wood. You can submerge that in water. It's just not a long-term solution. And sometimes things are gigantic and you can't get it in a big tub of water. So there again, moon cleansing is always good. Do it during the full moon. I don't recommend doing it during any eclipse. That's a different vibe. So also moon water. If you haven't dipped into moon water, that could be good for cleansing internally as well. You literally take a gallon of water and you stick it out in the moon overnight. Don't do it during an eclipse, and you drink moon water. I have actually given that remedy to people, shaman clients who had specific things going on. So moon water. Glad you brought that up. So clearing things, yes, that's a way to bless them, but you also don't want to leave. Sometimes when we bless things, it puts our energy into it. And then think about that. If you give your stuff away with your energy pattern in it, then it's in their space as well. And it's a little like a tendril or a cord of your energy that's going out. I like to leave things super clean, just send it out as clear as possible. And for me, a lot of things end up in the trash in a landfill because landfills actually can, or some countries it's they combust their trash, incinerate. A landfill is taking care of itself, like compost. It's composting. So it's doing. Yeah, dream catcher. Yeah, yeah. People love to give us dream catchers, right? And then you got 50 of them in your house. Yeah, same thing. I have like 10 salt lamps. Love those. And actually, salt lamps could be good for clearing your space a little bit. Okay, yeah, breaking it down. That's a good idea. Crystal said she took a scissors to that and to break down the vortex because that's essentially what scalar ring, and that is what a dream catcher is. It's like a scalar ring. It's collecting negative energies from our dream state. That's its intention, right? To collect it in the web. We often give them to people for their babies at baby showers and stuff. Yeah. So it's a little scalar ring made of wood, twigs. Yeah, cool stuff. All right. Any other questions or do you need clarification on anything I've said so far? I'm going to check the time. Okay, we're good. Try to not go over 90 minutes. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Much love. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Liz, you have to go. I will do the recording. I have Saturday marked off for doing all the editing, so this all should be put up by the weekend. Again, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful day. I'm always in the chat. If you have any questions, you can reach out there as well. Mahalo.